Don't seem like for them.
They did, and she did. Yeah, she did.
Put that over here.
She made it.
All right, it's Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. It is 5:00 PM for our regular board meeting for the Santa Cruz Valley Unified School District number 35. With that said, would we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Ramirez, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, Mr. Brad Beach. Ms. Susan Fobian. Here. Lourdes Vasquez. Renee Ramirez.
Here.
And myself, Joel Kramer. All five members are here. We have a unanimous quorum. With that said, we then move on to item B, which is adoption of the agenda. Mr. Verdugo.
No recommended changes, thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as is?
So moved.
Second.
Further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Out to the public.
No comment.
Out to the public. Moving on to number 2 in our agenda, which is presentations and subject A, Ms. Isela Brown, Business Office Special Recognition, Mr. Verdugo.
Thank you. I know Mr. Fanning is out there. He's gonna assist me with this. I believe this is the 22nd year that the business office has received this award for financial reporting. On the board agenda, there is a paragraph that talks about what it is. It's the Government Finance Officers Association of US and Canada, and they award a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. And so I've asked Mr. Fanning to assist me with handing out certificates because it is a full team award. Mr. Fanning?
Thank you so much. Or Mr. President, members of the board, district administration, I would like to go on if possible, if acceptable, to read the rest of this because I think it's important. You read the first portion. Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to Santa Cruz Valley Unified School District number 35 for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. So with that being said, for an entity to receive this 1 year is pretty awesome. 2 years, even better. We're not talking about 1, 2, 5, 10. We're talking 20 plus. And that's difficult to do. But the team that Isela, Ms. Brown has put together has done an incredible job year in and year out. And I've worked alongside each and every one of them and talk about a high quality group, always there to help. You know, when I asked Martine and Ray to help me out with whatever I need to help, they're right there. When we had to go to the White Elephant to pick some things up, Martine was there to help. I consistently every morning ask Yamil or Lourdes questions, and they're able to answer it just like that. So they are an incredible asset to this district. And it's always nice to know that whatever else is happening in the district, financially, we are sound because of that group right there. So thank you so much. I'd like to read what just one certificate says, and then we'll hand out the certificates. This certificate of appreciation for the excellent contributions he or she brings to the business office. And that's signed by district administration. So without further ado, if it's okay, Mr. Verdugo, if I can call them one up at a time. The first person is not here. Family comes first to all of us in this district. And I know that she is, I believe, at either golf match or some type of a game with her son. So Miss Lourdes Ocampo, I think next time we see her, if we'll give her a pat on the back or a job well done, I think that would be great. Next person I'd like to call up is also, she's not here. Is Carla here yet? No? Carla Garcilaso. Not only are these people high functioning, but they're also incredibly kind. And Carla Garcilaso is no different. Ray De La Cruz. Next, we have Mr. Martin Rivera. Next, Yamil Palafox. Next, we have Blanca Lizarraga. And last but not least, the leader of this group and an incredible member of this district, Miss Isela Brown. She gets a big one. Last.
Ready? Thank you.
Further accolades to the board? Lourdes?
No, I just want to say that Isela, thank you so much for all that you've done, always crossing all your T's, dotting your I's, and standing. I mean, you deserve to be our chief financial officer. Especially since all those years I tried to pass a purchase order for a Winnebago for the chess team. Get through. We know that you deserve it. Thank you.
Susan?
Thank you for all your hard work. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, Isela, congrats to you and your team. You guys are doing an outstanding job. Keep it up.
Very good to your whole team and for 20+ years of good fiscal management. Yep, that's what it takes. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
All right, item B, I believe was next, yes. School safety operations.
Recommendation is to go into an executive session for this to discuss the district school safety operations.
All right, so and we can see all that. I don't think I need to read the paragraph because Mr. Verdugo recommended that. Correct?
Correct.
You're
Yeah.
okay. So I do hear a motion to convene to executive session in room 125 conference room.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session.
Trying to figure out. Hey.
Yeah, we don't need to. Mr. Beach will be okay. We're in motion to reconvene the regular session and it is 6 P.M.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. All right, we're back to regular session. Subject C, student discipline, and everyone's involved in this.
We got everybody here. So, the board had a presentation. I think it was right before school started, or so, discussing student discipline. And so we want to bring it back to discuss what the plans were. We know that there has been a lot of concern, not only in our district, and not only across our state, but nationwide, with the return from the pandemic with discipline. And so this gives us an opportunity to share with the board what the plans are at each of the school sites. So we've invited all of the administrators from each of the school sites to kind of let us know what's going on at each of their school sites. So I'm going to go over to Dr. Lunderbilt, who will kind of introduce it and then allow the sites to discuss what their plans are.
All right, well, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Like Mr. Verdugo mentioned, I'm here tonight just to do a brief introduction, but I'm going to let the sites talk about what's happening because they're the people who are working with our students every single day. Tell me which one. All right, I'm going to go through this rather quickly just to be respectful because a lot of you have been here for quite some time. But discipline is an opportunity for us to work with students. It's an opportunity for us to teach them and for them to learn. I know that after our last board meeting, understanding policy is something that this board is really taking seriously, and understanding what's in board policy. And so I listed those for you. Just so that you knew that our policies do tie back to our procedures. Within our approach to discipline, we try to use a common sense approach. Now, we do use mitigating factors, so all of our students have different backgrounds, and one thing that you'll hear us talk a lot about is developing relationships. That's something that's really important. Especially when you're dealing with some students that may have challenging behavior. I also included in your packet a copy of both discipline matrix. And I believe they're either attached or they were an additional attachment in board docs. Yes. I'm not going to go through the matrix, but what the matrix is designed to do is it's meant to be a guide. It's meant to help the individual who is administering the discipline or having a discussion with the student make an appropriate decision with some sort of fact behind it, whether it's a law, whether it's a different school code of conduct. That's the intent of the matrix. So rather than me explain all of the pieces to our discipline policy using board policy, I'm gonna have each of the sites come up and do a little explanation of what they're doing specifically at their site and share with you some of their successes as well as some of their challenges, especially post-pandemic. So we're gonna start with San Cayetano. So I'll invite Mr. Renteria and Mr. Armijo up. I keep grabbing at this like it's a microphone.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board and district administration. Discipline at San Cayetano is absolutely a partnership with our families, with our teachers, staff members, and especially within administration. Mr. Armijo has done a phenomenal job at honing it and really growing our discipline program. So I would like him to make the presentation to you this evening.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Gavin. Thank you for this opportunity to review some of the insight on how San Cayetano addresses behavior. As you see there through our proactive solutions, what our referral data indicates, and where to next, what's the next step for our site. So under the proactive solution, as you walk through each of our classrooms, you'll notice some type of behavior of expectations displayed. This could be a colored card, a green, yellow, red, blue card that may be flipped to the proper color depending on the behavior for that day. The blue card also indicates that it's time to pull out the discipline binder, which we'll discuss a little bit later. You also find positive clips used for what a super student might look like. In addition, there may be a point system that has been also implemented. Rules in some classrooms are generated and signed by the students. They're also displayed throughout the classroom. Along with some important key aspect are the ongoing conversations. They play a big part in teaching the student the correct expectations. This takes us next to our school-wide matrix, which is tied to our 6 pillars of character, as you see there. These pillars are found throughout our school, from banners displaying on the walls, hallways, posters in the classroom. The colors are found on the student and staff pledge and also on their shirts. I'll just go, with the student pledge, it's first, love learning; second, excel in all we do; third, achieve goals together; fourth, repeat, respect one another; and fifth, never give up because we learn. And that's something that the students repeat during the morning announcements and recited in the classrooms. Specifically, these students are taught these procedures found here on our matrix in each of these areas during the first week of school by our specials and gen ed teachers. And shout out to them because they do a wonderful job doing this. They're also reviewed and retaught as needed. Procedure and routines are an important part. They play an important part of minimizing behavior in the classroom and also in the school. We want to make sure that teachers understand that an effective teacher has a procedure, we know. That's how they want something done. In turn, they'll become a routine. And any added assistance with this is provided by our colleagues and also our leadership team. Every morning, I mentioned earlier, through our announcements, our student pledge is recited of things we say, think, and do. It's also mentioned in classrooms. Our staff pledge is also told to our students during our Friday morning ceremony. This is something that we pledge to do for the students. The things we say, think, and do, and that's first, come together as a team. Second, are successful only when students learn. Third, we teach and enrich. Fourth, ensure everyone counts because we care. Students, they also have this pledge on their learn binders. How is our counselor proactive solution? Well, I'll first say shout out to her also because she does an amazing job for us there at the site. Each pillar of character is tied to a month. Example, September is citizenship, October is trustworthiness, and so forth for the end of the year. She'll meet with each class and teach this pillar. Each grade level teacher, K-5, will select a student who exemplifies the character pillar of the month. And those selected for our character counts, they get to have our character counts fine dining where they're invited to dress up and attend a 3-course meal provided by Sodexo. In addition to meeting with each class, she'll receive referrals. Referrals from teachers or admin to address the current student crisis, offering coping techniques, problem-solving solutions, and positive reinforcement, and conduct one-on-one and or small groups as needed. And then also with parent permission, contact any outside agency for further assistance. Mention the discipline binder. So all our teachers receive and classified certified staff receive a discipline binder. One of the items in this discipline binder is our discipline notice, or K-5 discipline notice. It is tied to our 6 pillars of character and allows teachers to document any infractions that may occur in the classroom, outside the classroom, but also any immediate safety issues that need to come to the front office. Included in this binder are also suggestions to stop certain types of behavior reflection forms, and along with the necessary forms that includes our district, the bullying form, harassment forms. On the outside of the binder, you'll find this matrix that we just showed earlier, and you also find this referral flow chart of minor infractions, what needs to be taken care of in the classroom, and major infractions that need to be followed up and taken to admin. To continue to promote the good behavior, we have our SC Good Choices. As you can see, you'll see here in a sec, some of these awards that are given. We already discussed the fine dining. We have the golden classroom. The golden classroom criteria is based on the 6 pillars of character. We also have our kind kids at the bottom there. Recipients receive a kind certificate, a book, and have their picture taken and displayed on the kind kids bulletin board. For our kind kids, once again, that's each month specials teachers, they select students from a grade levels for being kind. Our care and learn cards up top there, our care and learn cards are given to those students or staff members for exhibiting a pillar of character and given a shout out during the morning announcements. We go back to the other slide there, because we bring this all back together and about our relationships to that huge piece here at our school. That can range from the collaboration with the teachers, with the students. We teach the students on how to the correct needed. We'll make home visits as needed also, or just random home visits just to see how the situation is going. And I would say that's our biggest strength here. We know that this takes time, commitment, but we also know this piece is there. You can see it in a kid when that kid comes to our office and he's just disappointed. He's disappointed in the decision he makes. Our referral data, that last year we had 16 referrals, 80% from males. They range from aggression, harassment, and property technology and theft. 2021, we actually didn't have any referrals, but this is the year that we had that hybrid model. We had a cap on the limit of students in the room. They were only there twice a week. The year prior, 1920, we had 20 referrals through 3 quarters. As a school, we do keep track of students who are sent to the front office for this disciplinary reasons. It's a Google form we have there. This helps us recognize the patterns, location of the incident, day of the week, time of the incident, nature of the incident, and students involved. Analyzing, interpreting this data allows us to provide support, set goals, and generate specific action strategies necessary. And not all leads to referral, but they're taken on a case-by-case basis. And that collaboration piece and communication with all stakeholders, especially with the student. Last, not least, here we have where to next. And I know you hear this from the other sides too, the CPS model, collaborative and proactive solution, or the CPS model. So in a sentence, it helps us focus on identifying the problems that are causing behaviors in kids and solving those problems collaboratively and proactively. And then when I say collaboratively, as mentioned before, that's with the student assistance. Make sure they have a village and come up with a logical solution. Myself and the counselor, we're working with elected teachers right now to roll this model out school-wide. And also including the discipline binder, teachers have a couple of CPS model sheets on how to conduct one of these CPS meetings with a student. So that's about it, so thank you. Any questions?
I can go ahead. I think you guys doing an outstanding job. I went and visited Mimi over the summer and, seeing the 6 pillars, everything's color coded, etc. Man, I felt, like I learned something walking out just by walking down those hallways. You're building that student profile. This is what we look like here at San Cayetano. And, the love of learning, you call it the student pledge. They're reciting, the 6 pillars, character, what do you call it? The 6 pillars of character. Once they know that's half the battle. This is the way we look at San Cayetano. You're not following this pillar. How can we help you, succeed in doing that? And I think it's so important that you have that at that school. It's very visual. I walked through that school. And, last resort, I'd hate to go into Mimi's office or your office and get disciplined by you, but overall, I think, just having the students believe in that, that's half the battle with the discipline. And what starts with Chris and you guys at the lower level, transfers to the junior high and the high school. And that's so important that, we allow those kids to believe in those 6 pillars, the student pledge, because that's just gonna help our district as they move up the educational ladder. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Like the structure and the routines. I agree. It's very important, and the enforcement of all of those things, the rules at a young age. Extremely important, especially when these guys start heading into the middle school, because that's when they get a little bit more daring, you know? The munchkins aren't as bad as when we would pick them up over at Calabasas, you know, and that's when they start to get a little bit more confident, you know, and try the system out a little bit more, but it's so important that you lay down the structure for the future, as Mr. Beach said.
It's the hormones, Renee.
I think that a tremendous amount of effort goes into the education piece, not only academically, but in the whole child. And so we really do put a lot of effort into those relationships. And as Dr. Vanderbilt mentioned before, every child is coming from a different situation, and we really have to look into the cause for the behavior. For example, I mean, we're seeing behaviors we've never seen before, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. We had a student who came to us without having kindergarten, preschool, no experience, lives at home with older siblings, and he was running away on a daily basis. And it's not that he was trying to be defiant, but he didn't want to be there. He's used to being at home by himself and not in a room with 25 first graders. And so understanding, okay, let's build his stamina. Let's do half a day. Okay, I understand you want to leave the classroom, but it's not safe. So your option is to be in this beautiful tent. So when you need a break, you can come sit here for a little bit. So it's really coming together as a family with our teachers, our staff members, everyone who's in contact with him, as simple as the eagle has landed on a daily basis on the radio. So we know that the student is there and there's eyes on him, and someone is there to say, good morning, we're so happy you're here today. Can we help you get to class? So really putting in that love, really because we care. Thank you.
Click the slide here. Now, do I think?
Mr. Jackson. Dominic, you can stay after if you like. Or at least half the presentation. You can see.
But he gotta earn his paycheck.
That's right. Board President Kramer, members of the board, district administration, thanks for letting us be here today to talk to you. As Dominic and I start sorting through the commonalities between the 2 campuses, I'm able to share with him the things that we've been doing at Mountain View over the years, and he's sharing with me his ideas. So I think it's really a wonderful opportunity for us to even get our campuses on the same page. At Mountain View, relationships is really a huge driving force in what we do as a discipline. We want to always make sure that we have that relationship with the student as well as their families, so that we can have those tough conversations when they might come up. Without the relationship, you're not going to get a student or their parent to even respond. So it's important that we do that, not just from the principal, but from the counselor to the, to the custodian, to the teachers in the front office. So that's something we constantly talk about. And, while we're not always perfect with it, it is a priority, and we want to make sure that we maintain that as a priority. One of the ways that partnership has manifested is in our family partnership meetings, which we started doing 2 years ago as an effort to have a true partnership with the families, not just about academics, but also behavioral expectations, where essentially 4 times a year, starting at the very beginning with what would be a traditional open house, is also a come into your child's classroom. Let's learn about the skills that we're working on. Those are academic skills as well as study skills, behavioral skills, whatever's necessary at that time, and show the parents ways that they can work on those skills and practice those skills at home with their children. That tends to be largely academic, but with specific students and student groups, we also work with them on things that they can do at home. We don't wait for conference time. If there's a issue that arises, we had a first grader 3 weeks ago that was acting very differently than he did a year ago in kindergarten. In fact, his behavior was probably even better in kindergarten than it was in first grade. So we immediately called a meeting, had the parent and the grandparent, because we knew the grandparent was involved a lot, and just talked about, hey, what's going on? We noticed a difference in your child.
What are those differences? They shared some things with us, we shared some things with them. And we were able to fairly quickly come up with an incentive right there on the spot. The child didn't even want to participate in the meeting. And so then we immediately found something in my office he was attracted to and brought it out and said, hey, this is something you can use and take with you if you can talk to us. You know, and he did at that point. So it was a way for us to partner with the parent, show the parent that we cared. Parents showed us that they cared, but we had to teach the parent a little bit. And that sometimes you have to do. That's one example. Things that become excessive. We've really, since COVID restrictions have lifted, we've really started to look at the concept of reverse suspension, although we don't call it that, and inviting the parent into the classroom to be with the child for multiple reasons. One, to provide support for the child, and two, to provide support for the teacher. And 9 times out of 10, that'll work. And it'll get the student to realize that we're serious. It doesn't usually have to go very many days. Occasionally it backfires and we realize, we understand why the student's behaving this way. We need to work with the parent in a different way. And that's okay too. And that's a positive because we get to see, okay, so the parent's struggling here. They love their child, but they're struggling with the discipline piece. So we're able to then work with them on that a little bit more. Expectations are huge. I firmly believe, we firmly believe students will raise to the expectations that you set if they're genuine and you truly believe that they can accomplish them. So we communicate those expectations through character. We do a character counts pledge every morning. And what we have really talked about is show us through your actions. Words are great, but show us through your actions. What are those actions? So every morning we recognize, we call, some schools have called them got caught. We call it feed the lion because we have like a lion that they bring the ticket up and we're the mountain lions and they turn the ticket in. But the point of that is we have students recognized for a specific actionable trait that they exhibited. So staff member writes it down, turns it in. When we do the pledge, I read in the morning, or we have a student read in the morning, which we're doing again, what that child did. And we say, you know, Susan Fobion was helping a classmate pass out books because they were struggling. Great job. That shows respect and responsibility. That shows citizenship. Come on up. And then we have little trinkets and we give them to them. But the idea is let's specifically point out the behaviors we want the children to be performing. And put emphasis on that because it's easy to put emphasis on when they do wrong. We try to put emphasis on when they do right. And that can be done very casually as well. Walking into the cafeteria, complimenting kids. God, your area is so clean today. 3rd grade, great job. High five out the door. That goes a long way also. And sometimes we do that intentionally when we see the grade next to them maybe isn't doing such a good job. And rather than jump on them, we praise the kids right next to them so they realize, okay, we gather my stuff and start cleaning up because he's praising what's right. We also really lean on the district ladder approach and precedent of consequence. As much as possible, I want our staff to make decisions that are not opinion-based or emotionally driven, because that's where you get into problems. So we really look at that district ladder approach. I know that all of us have been involved in informing that ladder over years. Dr. Lunderville has spearheaded that over the years. And so I put a lot of trust and faith into that in looking at, okay, what should we do here? What are the factors? What are the mitigating factors? You know, what are potential consequences? And then the second layer of that is looking at precedent. I've been doing this job long enough now that I know similar cases, no matter what happens, so I can go back and kind of look at what did we do in this situation? What did we do in that situation? Because we also want to be consistent. You know, we don't want to have a child do something and get in-school suspension for 3 days, and then 6 months later, another child does the same thing and gets 8 days just because they've been more difficult. We want to be consistent in that and not let judgment come into it too much. We want to interpret more than judge. And then when we look at consequences, we look at that learning piece. We really want to bring out how are we going to help the student practice this desired skill? It's easy to punish. It's easy to tell a kid and make them feel like they've done wrong, quite frankly. That's the easy part. That's not the point. What we want to do is help them learn the skill that they're clearly not mastering, just like it would be any other skill in school. So how do we do that? And that's the tricky part. And that's what Dominic and I have started talking about in the short time he's been with us. And that's what we talk about with Ms. Fajardo, where she does her character counts lessons as a school counselor. How do we help kids rehearse and practice their preferred behavioral skills? And so when a student has ISS, half of that time, I guess my challenge, my invitation to Dominic and Edith this year is for all three of us is when a student has in-school suspension, I want half of that time, we want half of that time to be rehearsal, reflection of what that skill is that they can practice. What did they violate? What pillar did they violate? How did they violate? How did they make others feel? How would they feel? And be reflective of that. And then form a plan of action to then practice that skill that they were lacking. Because that goes back to relationships too, helping students have relationships, peaceful conflict resolution. It's all easier said than done, but those are the things that we're really trying to make our focus as we lead the kids. We also stress the words champion and character at Mountain View. And when we say champion, we don't mean winning all the time. That oftentimes is what happens when you do the right things, but we mean championing your causes, you know, being a champion for your cause, being focused on your goals. Which takes me to the next point, which is tying it into the student's goals. You know, when a student makes a bad decision and they end up in our office or on the playground or wherever, we want to talk to them about what their goals are and bring it back to something that's important to them. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? How is this behavior preventing you from doing that? And really tie it back to them in a personalized sense so that they feel invested in their own development and not that they're just trying to please the adults on campus. The other piece is the referral data up there. You'll notice aggression fighting at the time of this slideshow. Aggression fighting 3, alcohol, tobacco, paraphernalia 1. That was a lighter. There was no cigarette involved, fortunately, but it was a cigarette lighter. It wanted to show another kid what fire looked like, so we got hold of that real quick. I just wanted to say that because I don't want no fentanyl or anything like that on campus so far, hopefully. And then other violations, those are mostly like disrespect, repeated defiance of authority, or talking back to teachers, things like that we can reflect on. The other pieces is when we get to that point, I talked about it through the parent partnership meetings, but on an individual basis, we try to recruit families to take part in helping the students make amends. That may be, you know, what do you think would work in this situation? Writing a letter, practicing a skill at home. Oftentimes parents have pretty good ideas. I've had parents suggest, well, can my son or my daughter, can they help clean the cafeteria? I said, well, if you approve of that, if it's an offense that is related to that type of an amends, then yeah, we can certainly arrange that. And then other times I've had to guide them in other directions. Another area that we're excited about that we started to do before COVID and now we're starting to revisit is as student ambassadors, where it's simply, we take students that are doing well or have the capability to do well in a social setting, or those students that want attention and they're doing things negatively to get that attention. We redirect them to get that attention in positive ways, just through doing social service on campus that they think is fun. Putting the flag up in the morning, helping the little kids in the crosswalk with the traffic at drop off, helping keep the cafeteria organized with the food that the kids don't eat, make sure it gets on the sharing table. And then once we start designating a few kids, we have a ton of kids in elementary school. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. So what a great thing if we can cultivate kids that want to volunteer being citizens for their campus and taking ownership of their campus. So that's something that we're going to try to accentuate even more as we move forward when we see opportunities to do that. And not just the kids that are those model citizens, but those kids that maybe struggle, get them invited to do that also so that they can practice that skill, to, you know, have exercises to practice their citizenship. I talked about our counselor a little bit. Now that we have Dominic, we are going to, you know, try to get Ms. Fajardo to do even more social emotional practice, I'll say, with students getting into classes. and being specific with the character pillar that is needed at that time. So what we did initially is we had, should go through the list. We're doing responsibility this month, or now we're trying to be responsive to what the teacher's feedback is and what we're seeing. If we're seeing, well, this group of kids are struggling with trustworthiness, and she will tailor that lesson for that group of kids on trustworthiness. That way, it's not just an arbitrary lesson, albeit it would be good, but we're trying to target, this is what fifth grade needs right now. So this is what fifth grade's lesson is going to be. This is what third grade is going to be, and so on. So we're trying to be personalized in that sense as well, with the behavior expectations. So that's kind of what we're doing in a nutshell right now. I could probably talk all night, but none of us want me to. But do you guys have any questions, or is there anything I could clarify for you?
Started off, like I said, to Mimi, you guys at the elementary school level are the cornerstone, and everything builds off you guys. So you're doing some good things. I like how Dominique, you're sort of going between both schools, you guys sharing the ideas. That's a positive down there. And I really think the parent involvement, Chris, that you're doing is, that's key to really nipping it in the butt when it happens. As soon as you get the parents involved, 9 out of 10 times that's gonna work.
And especially in our community, because our parents are very supportive and frankly gracious with school staff.
I'm always wondering what happens when junior high and high school, where to start backing off a little bit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you notice any challenges after COVID,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
such as?
Oh, yeah.
Some major challenges?
Behavioral lack of practice, I guess, lack of social practice and skills for sure. Whether it's manners in the cafeteria, or eating, frankly, how to eat without making a mess, or how to get along with others, or frankly, just their stamina, to get through the school day, not just with academics, but from a social setting.
That's what I thought would be a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I will say, and our teachers have remarked on this, is we've reeled them back in pretty quickly. And I wouldn't say we're all the way there yet with some of them, but we certainly have reeled them in and helped create, I think, peace with our families too, where they've appreciated that and they've supported us and they've enjoyed that partnership again with us, which, as best as we tried, it just can't be done in a virtual setting exclusively, and having them physically on campus has been positive. Yeah, definitely noticed differences. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, President and members of the board. Thank you for having us today. Of course, you get double duty from us for being a pre-K through 8th. I invited Ms. Rivas along for the ride because she has put in a lot of work along with Mr. Chavez and Ms. Vasquez, because that was her 301 last year. So of course, I'm going to echo relationship building is key. Discipline is not the way that it used to be. It's not black and white. My dad will say, don't you remember Mr. Ross had the paddle? I'm going to ask him for the paddle. It's not like that anymore, right? And after COVID, we really have to be realistic of what we're dealing with. People did not leave their house. So that communication piece, the how to learn how to play with each other, all of that is lost. And we have to be that educational institute that has to bring that piece back up. And parents forgot a lot too, and that's okay. We have to work with them as well. I'm going to say the school safety grant has been a huge help, because before we only had one counselor at the school before, and now having both Ms. Klein and Ms. Kemp, it has been a tremendous help, because we are a large site with over 1,000 kids. And with the aftermath of the COVID years, of course, we're going to need that extra support. We have counselors doing lots of check-ins with students. They check in the morning, check out at the end of the day. We also have a lot of clubs that were developed. There was lots of loss for family members and students coping with that. So we have a grief group, we have an anger management group, we have the Be Kind group. So all of these clubs are being formed to help support all of the students that are dealing with specific issues. Again, it's about the whole child and what's going on with them specifically is all gonna be a lot different than, you know, everybody as a whole. Of course, Rebecca had introduced us to the Lost at School book. John and Vanessa and Miss Vasquez were on the committee last year. And so we started working with our teachers this year. So all of our teachers got a copy of the book this year. They already read chapters 1 and 2, had a reflection questions that we had assigned to them for some homework, of course. And then we are going to continue to read the book and make sure that, you know, we come to a consensus as a site of what's doable based on what we already have and how we can modify and adjust it. So we have the procedures and routines, and the procedures and routines, again, it's just coming back to establishing those. This was actually developed by our teachers. So you can see it's very kid friendly. It shows the expectations, playground, lunch time, walking to the bathrooms, anything that the kids need to know. The teachers were given this slideshow to go through this with their class. So they're understanding what the expectations are. So how they're supposed to act in the cafeteria. So this is something that they do that first week of school. Oh, you're fine. Discipline folder, the teachers do have a discipline folder with all the documents. We also have the behavior expectations. We have 2 of them for the elementary and the middle school, just because they're gonna look a little bit different. Elementary, you know, is more specific, just like how you saw on that previous slideshow, and the middle school as well. So those are provided for you to take a look at as well. We still have a discipline matrix, so the teachers are always reviewed at the beginning of the year of what's handled inside the classroom and what's also referred straight to the office. This is a document that we will look into modifying after we read the book to add in some of those steps. And I don't know if you want to talk about some ideas that you had about what you're going to possibly add to the bottom of the form.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. President and board members. Yes, since we have been working with the Lost at School and then the following book that we're still haven't gotten into it, we do have a 301 class where the counselors and myself are planning to revisit this matrix and look at our LSUP and our Plan B as well as our new referral form and add what we need for this new program that we're starting. So that is in the works as well as when we implement this, and also a flow chart of the expectations of what deems to go to the counselor and then what completely comes to us specifically at the drop of a hat. So we're going to look into this and decipher, looking at our data from last year and the previous year as to what were the infractions that we saw the most and make those decisions based on the data that we received.
The K-5, there is opportunities for students to have that think time. So there is a document that will ask them to sit there and reflect and also connect it to the character counts. So there is that opportunity for, are they being safe? And what could you have done differently? And really trying to get them to see the full picture. So it takes a lot of time, and it's sitting with the kids, and it's not just getting to know them. We have our little friends that come in often, and I'm telling you, I have one probably every single day, and he didn't talk to me at first. Didn't talk to me at all. So the opportunity for us to sit down, and he's not running away anymore. I have a runner too. And the opportunity for him to talk to me and building those relationships, making sure he's getting the support. One thing that I also want to mention too, the counselors have been involved with a lot of parent meetings, and then also we're involving a lot of the community resources. So Intermountain's been one that's been really helpful. They've been on campus and they actually pull kids to meet with them too. So it's again, looking at the full circle, you know, making sure that those students have every aspect. Did they have the opportunity to go see the pediatrician? Have they had the opportunity to get some opportunities for the counselor from the outside services to come in? Do we need to set up an SST for them? So what are their needs? Again, going back to when is everything, what I need, what do they need to be successful in the classroom? Is there anything else that?
No, just that the intervention, the think time, it also ties into the CPS model where you're building that relationship and you're having to have them be proactive and collaborative with their consequence or their think time. What is it that they could have done different? And they know, instead of stabbing the student, I should have just said, stop. So just making them have that time to reflect and kind of debrief and not be so angry. And like I tell them, I get angry too, but does that mean I go hit him or I'm angry at him? So like today you weren't there, but I used Ms. Patterson. I said, well, if I'm angry at Annette, am I gonna go hit Ms. Patterson? No. So things like that, just making them see it in a different perspective.
Any questions for us?
Reach, you've been leading.
Again?
Let's do it, Mr. Beach.
Yeah, well, I visited your campus over the summer, man, it is a big campus. I would get lost there, but you guys are doing some amazing things over there with your boot camps and getting the kids in there early and walking them around. But I think you guys are, Ms. Rivas, you mentioned, you're looking at the data and you're sort of, the discipline is sort of evolving on what you see. So I think that's very important. Post-COVID, that we are facing some challenges, some discipline issues that was never there before. And how are you gonna implement some procedures to address that? So I think you guys are doing an outstanding job, and if there's anything that the board can do, help out, let us know.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I wanted to say something that when you were the administrator at Rio Rico High School, if you recall, I hardly ever sent anybody to you, but when I did, you were very good about enforcing the rules, Bethany, so I just want to tell you kudos, because those times that I did, you laid the law down. I was going to say that it's extremely important that when you send you guys there, that don't, the old saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. We don't allow that kind of thing to happen. I can say, on behalf of Mr. Fox, when I was there at Calabasas, Mr. Fanning was also really good at this. He sent people, or we had some kind of issue, he would always back us up. So just a general piece of advice to all administrators, it's extremely, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but enforcing those rules and being consistent about it, as Jackson is really, really important, and Dominic as well. Enforcing them, being consistent. You guys keep using the word rapport too, developing rapport, having both ends of it, trying to develop rapport even with the guys you see on a daily basis, as you mentioned it. That too is important, but also enforcing those rules and being strict. And that can be tough, because then you have to run into a lot of parents, irate parents that come in, and why did you put my little Johnny and so forth. I'm sure you run into that, Steve, because he knows how that all goes. So sure the superintendent remembers his days at Calabasas. You have to be tough too. So, but loving and tough, kind of like, just like as you are as a parent. So the kudos to you, because I do remember you being strict when you were at Rio Rico High School. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, Mr. President, board members, district administration. Thank you for having us here. Moving into middle school. We always start at the beginning of the school with a student expectation assembly. So we believe strongly, we meet as a team. Mrs. Shadler and I, we even kind of joke around, start your list for next year, things that we want to adjust, or what's not working or what is working, to make sure that we are always adjusting to the needs of our students. And so then as a leadership team over the summer, when we meet, we go through all of our rules, all of our procedures. We talk about what's working. We talk about the consistency. And I think one of the strongest points that we have this year is being consistent school-wide. So we all have agreed to whatever we're saying we're going to do, we are going to follow through with that. And so then we have our student expectation assembly, and we go through our rules and we go through our procedures, and we talk about, the grading. What is it to be a Cavalier? What does that mean? This is not my school, doesn't belong to me, it belongs to all of us. And so we all need to have ownership in it to ensure that our school runs smoothly. We are courteous, teachable, motivated scholars. And what does that look like from 6th through 8th grade? So regarding behavior, when we changed campuses from a small indoor campus to a large outdoor campus, a lot of our procedures and things we had in place stopped working. We unfortunately, with thinking about how to move items and get into rooms and have everything prepared, we didn't go into as much depth into what is going to work and what's not going to work versus an indoor campus and an outdoor campus. When I can see my 400 kids going through a square and changing passing periods to you're on one side to the other side and you need to get there and please don't be late. So there were a lot of adjustments we had to have. So when we did get the new boundaries in the outside, we started noticing, this is not working. Why is this not working? And so we came to this book, Mrs. Shadler and I found it. I'm principal groups just to get other people's perspectives and what's going on around. And this book came up, Lost at School. So our traditional discipline, it wasn't working. You suspend a kid, they come back and they make the same poor choice. We don't want that to happen. And so then COVID hit. And so we really focused on this book. And the teachers read it. We delved into it. We have a 3-year plan. If you can see the site plan. So we committed as a site for 3 years. So in the 2021 school year, we did a book study, Lost at School. This is where you talk about the ALSUP. What are some of the lagging skills students have behaviorally? It's not that kids don't, they choose to be bad or that they don't want to be good. They do. You always, as a human being, you want to be good. There's just some lagging skills that you have that you don't know how to face. And so it's our job to find what those are with the student collaboration and then work through those. There's always going to be a lot of lagging skills, but what are the main focused ones and what are those priorities? And so we did a lot of the book study. We met virtually as a team. We did role playing. What does that look like? You're the student, you're the teacher. And so we really want that ownership, that it's not just the teacher telling you what to do. That would be a plan A. But it's really, why are you never doing your bell work? Let's really find the reason you're not doing your bell work and causing the disruption in the class. And so we went through that the first year. Last year, we started a mentoring implementation. And so we have monthly meetings for behavior and discipline. We talk about all the different kids. We talk about our special friends that need a little more assistance from us. And we identify those. And then we start the Plan B process, which is an ALSUP. It starts with the empathy stage. And we ask a lot of why. We asked, so what's up with you? What's going on? And so they have to take that ownership. It's not, you brought something to school, you're suspended for 3 days, and then they come back. So we really want to get down to the root of that. And so we've been, we really did podcasts and we had meetings, we identified students, we implemented that with small groups. We also worked through all of that last year. We also, during our site council meetings and our parent sessions, we introduced to our families, because it takes all of us with us. The parent side of the book to this, Robert Greene, is raising human beings. And so we want to be speaking the same language. And so we are working with our parents during parent meetings to just have that, because raising a teenager can be very difficult at times. Understanding and what they're saying is not really what they're feeling all the time. They say, don't come to school, but they say, like when you're there, helping, because it has that sense of pride. And so then this year we're coming back at the book study. You can see collaboration, and we're doing Lost and Found. And so it's very similar to Lost at School, but it goes into more depth and gives more reasons, along with like what the teacher's doing, what the students can do, what with administration, how are we all a team to enforce this to work for us. So we really have modeled our discipline based off of this platform, and it is working with our students. They have become self-advocates quite well. We use our student statements, we use the contact logs quite often. We have lots of conversations with the students before that discipline binder gets to the 4th step. We have interventions that'll assist them. So the first time they talk to their teacher, then they talk to the teacher and the parent calls home, hey, I've noticed this behavior, how can we help? Is there something going on that we need to understand? If it still continues, and there's a counselor meeting, and then when it gets to us, you can kind of, that's where it's progressing and you need even more assistance. So if we go back, I can show you, we have a behavior matrix. Thank you. And we're progressive, it's a very tough one. It's very progressive in nature. But you can see there where we have handled in the classroom, sent to the office, and which one it is. And if you scroll down, we've adjusted ours so that it is aligning directly with our ALSUP procedure. So we are still using the Plan B. And so you can see where it is. You have this meeting, then you, like on the fourth step, the solution, you want to start implementing the ALSUP. I'm not saying the ALSUP is for everybody. It's not, why did you, if it's an extreme case, we obviously handle it differently. But then we always come back after they have their consequence, and there are consequences to every action. And I tell them it's either positive or negative, and it's your choice, which one. But then we come back and we review our behaviors. We ask what happened, what are we going to do differently, and then we move forward. And so it really is focusing on the teaching and learning of that, as opposed to just you're suspended. Another great thing that we have is our collaboration with our students, staff, and families. So like everybody says, relationship building is the most important. And so we really do work with that. We have had incidences. We use outside agency assistance, Circles of Peace. Mariposa Clinic has come in and assisted us. The U of A extension with the teachers, we had Chris Bachelier just talk about how we can diffuse some situations when students of the social emotional are getting elevated. And so how can we work with that? And so we're training the teachers as well. Intermountain referral. So if you go back up to the referral data, you will notice some of the challenges we had coming back from COVID. There was defiance and disrespect, violation of school policy, which was disruption. We had aggression. Students came back not knowing how to talk to each other, and they wanted to immediately react. So we need to not react immediately, but let's have a conversation before. And usually after it happened, they regretted it immediately. That's not what was supposed to happen. I should have. Well, you're right. This is what you should have, but you made this choice. So now what do we have to go through? And then you can see harassment, threat, and intimidation. And then alcohol, tobacco, and vaping. Something that we brought in with these behaviors that we notice is it's not just suspension. They do get suspended. You can see on our logs that get weekly, the discipline. But what do we do after they've been suspended? So we meet with them. We have, depending on what it is, we meet with the counselor. They meet with Mrs. Shadler and myself. We have conversations, kind of a behavior plan. What are we going to do moving forward? When there was we did have a high case of vaping on our campus. And so they were suspended for having that. But then in order to come back, they had to, with their parents, and I think that was really key, we had Circles of Peace do a training on collaborating, like the parents and the child had to be there. And then they would have a session with just the kids, a session with just the parents to talk about what's going on. And then they would meet together. They had to go to 2 of those sessions. So they were evening sessions. Mrs. Shadler and I attended those as well. And it really got to the student and the parent talking to each other as opposed to fighting each other. You're grounded. I'm taking everything away from you. You might still do that. But let's get down to having those conversations. What is really going on? Because there's always something behind that action. So we've been really fortunate that we've had that with outside agencies bringing in just this year, because the school safety ground, our school counselor, we do a needs assessment at the beginning of the year by grade level, and the students tell us what they need. So it can vary by grade level. Academics, they don't really talk about, they are feeling supported right now, especially with the change. But some have anxiety and they need to know how to deal with that. And then we've started a group of identified, but there's different things that they'll need. Bullying, how do I stand up for myself? And so then Ms. Amarias is able to tailor her lessons that we do during 30 minutes during SSR, and she has conversations with the students, but because they've requested, they're asking us for assistance, and so we're able to provide those for them of what they need. And it's going to look different in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Some might have a trend, but sometimes they're just different based off of their age level and what their cognitive level is of that understanding of what they need. So that's been really positive with our school counselor. I think just going back again in everything, it is those relationships. And when students, anybody, but we always ask them, who are you? What does your name mean to you? What do you want to be known as? And that pretty sobers them up pretty much, because they know they're at an age where, yes, they're going to have behaviors of a young child, but they're caught in the middle of their actions and what they're choosing to do, having greater repercussions because they are moving on into a higher level. And so with that, conversations and really having them take ownership of their actions, their behaviors, understanding the consequence, and then being very consistent throughout has really been helpful as we continue to move through our behavior. This year has been better. There still are instances, they're middle school, but they learn from their mistakes. And I always tell them, you know, it's better to learn from your mistakes now than later. I mean, but learn from it. Let's not make the same mistake over again. But they're really, I mean, middle school, I know they have a reputation, but middle school really is pretty wonderful. We just have to help them because their brains are growing so much once again. But when they're babies until they're middle school, it just changes and their hormones and reaction, they have to learn to stop and pause. And so that's really what we're focused on, helping them understand what they need assistance in and then helping them grow to be better individuals. Thank you.
Side first. What side? Mr. Ramirez?
I'd just say the same thing I said to Ms. Patterson, which is that consistency is extremely important and, you know, enforcing the rules. Because Mr. Estrada anchors all of these kids, you know, that come through you guys. And so, I don't know, I know you bring the high school experience down to the middle school, so you know what he has to face up there. So maybe someday, I don't know if the superintendent could pull it off or have it allow you to go to the high school to see what it's like to deal with stuff up there. I mean, couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I also visited your school over the summer and I remember walking through that campus and just seeing a bunch of dirt, the bond money, you know, just a welcoming environment, the open spaces where the kids can read in, you know, that reduces a lot of that anxiety, a lot of that stress and stuff. So our bond money at work, did a lot for that school. Yeah, at the junior high, the hormones are flowing. They don't know whether they're up here or down there. I would never work at a junior high. You know,
Hidden gem.
yeah, you guys are a special bunch down there to deal with that, but you know, building that relationship, taking ownership with the parents, the teachers, the students, the outside community, and just hearing all their voices. You know, you mentioned something about the why, talking to the kid. It allows him to voice his, you know, what's bothering him. So I think it's very important that what you're doing is getting everybody involved and hearing all their voices, and that reduces a lot of the discipline problems down there. As far as what's the meaning of your name, I never liked that because it's like a thin nail. So it's like, yeah, yeah, but no, it's good to let them reflect like that. But yeah, you're doing great things down there, Rebecca, you and your staff. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members. Good evening. Thank you for having us today. Well, you heard a little bit about Rio Rico High School discipline in the spring. So we figured we start off with how the school year ended in comparison. What we did, and we always do, is we always look at our discipline data to review it. And we take it to our leadership academy in the summer with our teachers there so they can also review it. But this past year, given that it was so unique coming back from COVID, I decided to reach out to 2 high school peer groups to see what trends that they saw and what their data spoke to. And so you can see that there are our data numbers at the end of last school year yielded 149 incidents, with our top 3 being alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, an attendance policy violation, and aggression, right? The peer groups that I spoke with and received data from to review in comparison to our situation, high school A had 258 incidents, as you can see there. Same top number 1, which is alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, essentially vaping. Vaping is our number 1. And theirs as well. You can also see the amount of students that they had. We ended last school year with 1,339, and peer group A had 1,058 students. Peer group B school had over 300 incidents. And their top one was also vaping, and they had 1,149 students on their campus. So in looking at the data with two other high schools in the same peer group, I wanted to present that information to the governing board, and we presented it to our leadership team as well. Just to see that vaping is a trend that we already know, but just looking at data within the area of our peer groups confirms that. Also to see that with the efforts that we put in last year may have led to us having fewer incidents than our peer groups, especially with the amount of students we had in comparison with them. So, but we took that data, and Mr. Hicks is here. He oversees discipline, him and I, he's the primary lead in discipline. And as the other principals mentioned, relationships are everything. Our core values are we rep, the first letter is R, right? And so I shifted to Mr. Hicks being over discipline solely so he can build that relationship, continuity, and consistency with kids as he works with them. Now, it doesn't mean that myself, Mr. Lopez, Mr. Bueno, Mr. Laughlin don't help. We certainly do. But for the most part, Mr. Hicks gets it also. It's consistent. When we go through the discipline matrix, he knows where the kids have been. He knows what meetings he's had. If he has a kid if a teacher's having a problem with a kid and then this kid's sixth period teacher's also having the same problem, he's already talked with that kid. So it provides a lot of continuity for our campus with him being the focal point on that. And so that's how our school year ended, just to piggyback off of our presentation, Ms. Vasquez, I know you were here for that presentation in the spring. So we'll also get into a little more information in our next slide. So if you don't mind, so all three of the areas can populate. We talk about creating a student-centered culture. We talk about relationships, excellence, and pride. So all of that is messaged throughout the school year. In Leadership Academy, Mr. Hicks did a great job, and I'll let him talk about that here in a second, of working with our teacher leaders to develop, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what should we do? Here's our discipline data. Here's some ideas. Here are when things consistently happen. Anyone have a guess of which day has the highest number of discipline incidents? What would be your guess?
Wednesday.
Usually Friday and Mondays come up, right? Mr. Hicks, what's the day?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday has the most discipline incidents. So looking at our data allows us to understand, okay, we all thought, I would think maybe Friday or Monday when they come back from hanging out on the weekend, right? It's Tuesday. And so knowing those little nuances of what happens on our campus, that helps us. So on Tuesday, we need to make sure we're covered, right? And even right now, our current discipline data, Tuesday still leads the day. I don't know why. I don't know if it's they do after the weekend and Monday they make the connections and then Tuesday stuff happens. I don't know. But still Tuesday leads the day. Currently, we have 16 incidents on our Tuesdays this school year, and that's the number one day. So the first approach for us is really getting to know our students, right? Building relationships. And Mr. Hicks, like I said, met with Leadership Academy this summer, and they created what we were going to do during lunch. And so I'm going to let him talk about the lunch change we made to address the incidents. And I can also share with you on our data, when we break it down and share it, if you remember, our top one was vaping. I think maybe 1 or 2 incidents of vaping took place in the actual classroom during instruction. Vaping takes place during passing period, before school, after school, at athletic events, at club things. It doesn't happen during instruction. The attendance policy happens because they're tardy. That's not happening during instruction. And the aggression, maybe 1 or 2 incidents that took place in the classroom, the aggression's not happening during classroom. So knowing that in our data, it's like, okay, so now let's restructure what we're gonna do before school, during lunch, after school, at athletic events. And so I'll let Mr. Hicks talk about what he presented during Leadership Academy and our model that we use during ELO and lunch.
Yeah, so as Mr. Estrada said, a lot of our issues are happening when students are out of the classroom, kind of in the general public area of our school. So we wanted to find a way to, if you've been on our campus, you understand the size of our campus, right? You understand the numbers of students that are on our campus at this point. So we needed to find a way to supervise our students, to empower teachers, to give our staff the ability to supervise the areas and to make decisions to help us help them. So what we've done is go to a pod approach. So if you know our campus, you know we have 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800 pods on our campus. Within each of those pods, we have about 8 to 10 teachers. So we empowered those pods to build their own coverage schedules, to provide the supervision within that specific pod area. So whether that be the bathroom, whether that be the common area, whether that just be the general hallways on those indoor pods on the indoor side of campus, it was allowed for the teachers to create those schedules so that they could then supervise the areas and times that they had. And we worked with teachers to make sure they still got their lunchtime, to make sure that they were still available to provide any additional instruction or students to come in to do reteach. So those schedules are built obviously around those principles that we want to make sure are most important on our school, that academic element that we want to make sure is pushed always. So we don't take a teacher away every morning from ELO. We don't take a teacher away every lunch from being able to reteach those students. So within those pods, they generated schedules. One teacher would have a 30-minute coverage. Another teacher would have the next 30 minutes for lunch. In the mornings, what we call ELO. There would be somebody that was designated to supervise the pod for that morning. So it just provided us with eyeballs and supervision on every single area of our campus so that we always knew somebody was out there. And it allowed us to be able to maneuver campus and say, okay, 200 pods should be Miss So-and-so today. That should be the student, the teacher that's in supervision role right here. So then we can work with, instead of chasing 1,400 students, now we have a pod of 8 that we can say, hey, today's your day to make sure you're on coverage. It helped us, help them, and it helped supervision within those areas tremendously. So really the bottom line is we gave those teachers the power. They generated those, we generated the schedules initially, but then said, hey, if you want to create your schedule, you guys create your schedule. Some teachers are saying, you know what, I'll do Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and you do Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll work it that way. However they decide to do it, whatever works within their pod has been successful. In fact, today I had a meeting when we got back from our school safety presentation with a teacher about new teachers being on campus, new teachers filling classrooms. Now we need to revamp that schedule so that those teachers are involved. We're covering everything that we need to cover. So it's worked really well. It's also given teachers the ability to communicate with us. Hey, this is going on in our pod. This is what we're seeing. These are the issues. So now we are in a place to truly assist directly versus trying to supervise 1,400 students on a giant campus. Those pods are providing the feedback that we need to say, hey, we're having an issue in this pod with this bathroom. The girls' bathroom in the 600 pod is an issue. We need to make sure that security is in there. We have, a group of students that are hanging out in the 400 pod. Language is a little inappropriate. Now they're getting a little excessive. We need to make sure that we address those issues. So those are the kind of things that have come from this. And as Mr. Estrada said, it's really come from the teachers taking the ownership and making that change and commitment to being the ones out supervising, being the ones out basically policing those pod areas that they've been assigned to.
And it's been a huge shift positively. That last bullet point there, accountability, supervision, and team effort, right? And Mr. Hicks explained, and we explained the purpose of our one lunch. We had to explain the purpose, but it can't be done by 4 administrators and 3 security guards. It's just not going to work. So now everyone's on board for the purpose. The reteaching and enrichment's happening in classrooms when the teachers aren't supervising. We're around, and so like Mr. Hicks said, we're able to respond quickly, effectively. We're out too. Like, we're not just sitting in our offices, right? Because the teachers have it now. Like, we're out there as well. So the lunch and morning dynamic has shifted tremendously. I suspect our discipline incidents to increase just because now we have that many more eyes around to catch it. Not that it's going to increase in what's happening, but people are going to catch it. And so all of you are educators, you understand the power of proximity. And that's what we've created. We've created proximity within our unique areas of our pods that are really policing it. Like the others stated, this year with being back into everything normal, we were able to go through all of our preventative measures that we take to help out the first one here, which is the teacher approach. So we did our cohort assemblies talking about what it means to be a student at Rio Rico High School, what it means to rep, really emphasize positive relationships and pride, kind of like taking ownership of who you are and how are you representing yourself, your family, where you're from when you're on our campus. We had those conversations. That was actually my part in meeting with the students. We told them that we're going for A+. Like we submitted our A+ application and shared that with you in the principal report. And they told them we're going for A+ because of you and our teachers, right? And so we need you to respond like A+ students. And so I think that message was delivered very well. Once we developed the plan for lunch, we communicated that to all our students as well through video announcements. We communicated to parents. We have a weekly update that goes to students and staff. The students get that as well, so they understand what the expectations are. And so we're doing all the communication within that. Mr. Hicks also reviewed the 4-step process, which you've heard from the other administrators as well. And do you just want to explain what you touched on briefly? Because sure, that 4-step process is why those top 3 incidents are not taking place in the classroom. If our teachers follow that, they have been doing it really well this year, so.
Yeah, and this was explained earlier, the process of meeting with the student, meeting with the parents, having everyone come together as you move through that 4-step process. The biggest thing on this for us this year, I think, was really sitting down with teachers and saying, this is how to effectively use this document. This document had turned into kind of a, you're in trouble, I'm gonna write your name on this, and that's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There was not a lot of value to the document as it was being sent to administration. So we sat down with teachers and just said, this is what it needs to look like. These are the specifics that need to be in here, and we need to make sure we check these boxes in this document as we maneuver through this, so that when it does come to our seat, we can support that teacher, right? We can be the one to say, you know what, this is very clear. It's obvious what's going on in this classroom. You had plenty of opportunity. So now we can proceed with discipline based on this 4-step process. And like everyone has mentioned, we go through the same process. We call parents. We want to develop that relationship with the parent. I have very candid conversations with parents about what do we need to do here to fix this situation. But because this document has reached that 4th step, then discipline does need to be implemented. And we have done a better job this year, I would say, of making sure that this document has teeth. In the past, this document, well, I would say last year, this document maybe wasn't as much heavy-handed, but now when this shows up on our desk, it's much easier for us to defend that teacher, to say, this is thoroughly filled out. We know exactly what happened. That teacher is very clear on the situation. I've been addressed already on a couple of these, and so we know where to go with this situation moving forward. And teachers have done a great job. In fact, a lot of our teachers have kind of taken this document and brought it to life and put it in spreadsheets, and I'm getting cut and pastes, and this is the 4th step, and I have long, narratives of what's been going on in the class, because teachers are taking ownership of what's going on, the situations that are taking place in their classrooms, and then giving us explicit information about what happened, so that it's much easier for us to follow through on discipline. So I give teachers a lot of credit for really taking ownership of this document. And that's what this is their kind of opportunity to speak to what's going on in the classroom.
And I could say the primary changes from this year is consistency, clear communication, follow through. And we shared that if everyone's consistent, if we're all out in our pods when we say we are, if we're all communicating the same expectations, and then we follow through when it gets to whoever desk and or teachers, if we follow through, it certainly has improved tremendously. The second one is, once it gets to us, we build relationships with students as well. We do have our behavior management, which you've seen already, and I think I touched on it in the discipline matrix. But this behavior management, Mr. Hicks went through thoroughly at the beginning of the year, just so our teachers and all of our staff understood like what the expectations were for our process and expectations this school year. This is just a presentation you can follow, but it was just us starting off with that consistent communication, so everyone's aware of the things that we will go over and the things we expect on campus. Like the others also presented in our classrooms, we have our behavior expectations, we have our discipline matrix, we have what it means to rep. We have Hawk Pride up, so all that stuff is clearly communicated. And that was our behavior management that we went through with all our staff at the beginning of the school year. The last part is the student part. And so I know Mr. Hicks does a tremendous job, but all of us in the admin, once we get the students and the teachers, we do a great job of really work on trying to figure out why. Why are you 17, a senior, vaping during second period? Like, why is that taking place? What's getting you there? And so we trained all of our staff faculty last year through Trauma Informed. We had a guest presenter come in. I believe it was from Mariposa or from U of A, one of those two partnerships. But they came in and trained all of our teachers on Trauma Informed, how a trauma impacted student reacts to things, and just to help us cope when we have someone that gets really upset. Like, how do we deal with someone like that? How do we deal with a student that's diagnosed EDD? How do we deal with a student that's in foster care? I can tell you this last school year, we had more foster care students placed on our campus than any of the years I've been. And so these students come with difficulties that we need to learn how to manage. And so we provided that training for our whole staff, just to inform us of our students. And I always share, I point back here because Mr. Lanos back here. I carry a backpack to remind myself that our kids, every person brings their own story with them. Every person has some sort of baggage that they're carrying. And I always tell my staff, like, I wear a backpack so I don't forget that when I talk to this student, they have a story. And I wear that backpack and I wear it around campus. And sometimes the kids like, hey, Mr. Shaw, you look like one of us, right? But I wear it around campus to remind my staff faculty that our kids are bringing their own baggage, their own story with them. So we need to react according to the student. Yes, we need to hold them accountable, but we need to teach them as well. And so that's been our message this school year. I can tell you, I'm super happy and proud of what our campus has done just in this first part of the school year, especially with lunch and ELO. We have people step up when the security guard's out, they're at a gate. We're not asking them to do that. They're just there, right? And they're there reading kids or saying bye, and that positive flip, it impacts everybody. So there's great buy-in on the campus right now, and the students are responding and reacting, and they're doing well. You know really what else to present, because I know we talked in April, so any questions or ideas?
I'm happy you didn't take all the brunt by yourself tonight, because the last time I think you were like only one year. Yeah, I had to take a lot that night, so, but I'm also happy to hear that you're analyzing the data and you're taking this seriously. That's great. And I know it's not easy and it's hard to be consistent with it, stuff like that without, and it's very difficult to focus on this without losing all the enthusiasm you came into our district with. I don't want to see you lose that, because that's one of your strengths. And I know you like to push that. I saw that when I was at Walden, how the kids really responded to you. I'm praying that
I still got it.
you don't lose that.
Oh, yeah, I'll try not to.
So, and I'm glad that you made Mr. Hicks the discipline czar over here. You know, he's done a good job. I hear.
Allows me to keep my enthusiasm.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. So, and I was also happy to hear the discipline, you know, that we've seen more discipline reports, and sometimes I think like the principals are afraid to put a lot of them on there, like the fewer the better, and maybe the board will be impressed, but I'm more impressed when I see that you're really getting after these guys. And the big thing I say is the consistency. That's so important in enforcing the rules. The parties, I remember once, no, whether it was when Steve was there or later on, we had a video once to show how kids could cross the campus in a certain amount of time. You remember?
Bethany made.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It still lives, it's still a good, you know, it's funny because it's all.
It looks a lot different now walking across.
That's right. It was.
The campus looks different, but like the message and the still talking and hanging out with your friends still.
I bet that video was made with.
If you have it, that's a great thing, because it did make a difference. You know, the kids would laugh and they're like, check this kid out. And they showed him. they showed how they could get from one end of the campus to the other, even stopping a few times to talk to a few friends and so forth, or in the restroom and still making it to class on time. I thought that was a really good idea. So I'm just,
It's a share, we had during family conferences, I saw a couple parents with their kids who were on tardies, like walk the campus and they were timing themselves. And then I heard a parent say, you can get here on time.
I mentioned this because Mr. Beach had mentioned the issues with the tardy, so I'm glad. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that'll help out. I don't know, but ask Bethany, maybe they still have that video they put together. That would be pretty cool. And what else? Oh, the step, do we have? So I'm sorry, I was writing notes. Do we have a staggered lunch now, or do we still have one lunch?
One lunch. So
He said that he was gonna mention this, but
oh yeah, the one lunch is still, so it's staggered. Everyone's at lunch at the same time. But the pods have staggered start and end times for intervention. So, and they're all labeled and all the kids know, 'cause we killed the communication as much as we could, right? So they understand like this pod's available at this first 30 minutes, these pods aren't. So I'll give you an example. 600 pod, they're off, 600 and 700 pod are off in the first 30. So that's the teacher's lunch. So those doors are locked. There's no kids in there. So kids go to the, let's say 700 or go to the 800 or 400. Then at the 30 minutes, it switches, 600 and 700 is open. And those teachers are available. They already had their lunch period. Then the other parts of campus are locked and those teachers have their lunch period. So it's one lunch, but it's staggered more strictly. It's very visible on campus. If you go to 600 pod at 11:45, the door's locked and it has the posted times of when the teachers are available. So then those teachers have uninterrupted lunch. And then at 12:15, it opens up. And then you'll see those kids go get help from those students, and then the teachers are available from 12:15 to 12:40. So one lunch, but staggered through the structure, I guess. Yeah.
the cameras, when can we expect that the cameras will be on campus?
Don't know yet. Hopefully
Our goal is to have them running after Christmas.
after Christmas, hopefully. Which will
We
assist
know
in
they're
our-
here. We're just waiting on the install process.
The last thing I was saying, this is food for thought, where I work, we have 1,800, we have 1,800 plus students. And we have 6 security guards. If you do the math, we have approximately 1 for every 300 students that we have. Where we are, I believe we have 3, right? So if we do the math and it's 1,400 plus, come out to 1 for every 466 kids. That's a big difference. That's something to really think about. So I would like to see more security. This gentleman.
That's our full-time.
The SROs full time.
I just wanted to, there is.
We do have the 3 security guards and then the 1 SRO.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good presentation. I'm sure we will see an increase once the cameras are there. So it's all good.
We were just talking about that today. Thank you.
All right, Beach. Yeah, thanks, Hector, Mr. Hicks for the presentation. I know it goes elementary school, junior high, boom, high school. But just walking on your campus, you know, seeing all the clubs, seeing the athletics, football growing to 120 plus student athletes. That reduces discipline in a big way. You know, if a teacher ever came to me or Mr. Shadler and said, you know, David Kingsford or one of his runners was messing up in class, that stopped right there. So utilize your coaches. So it's real good things. You made some changes based on the data. So it looks like it's working. The 4-step program I believe in, but just remember though, there are certain cases where if a teacher sends it and bypasses a couple of steps, listen to the teacher. Because, you know, I had it in my class where a kid told me to F off, walked down to Miss Mueller, told her to F off. And that day we had the police officer in there, we had the parents in there crying, and we nipped it in the butt right there. Because if a teacher does bypass some steps, something's going wrong with that kid in that class. So just keep in mind to support your teachers, and once they know that, they're gonna support you. And you know, you guys work together, but thank you for the presentation, and looks like we're off to a great start this.
All right, I kind of took notes for everyone. I'll certainly touch on Rio Rico High School because Hector, you did take the brunt of it last spring. And you certainly were, you are very professional there because we did bring up as a board some concerns. Yet not all those concerns were just with you, it was across the district. And certainly the question arose, of what's going on? Are we going to improve if there's situations? As you know, I walked around all your schools in the beginning. I know I didn't get there in time for seeing the kids, but nevertheless, what I saw at Rio Rico was not what I had heard through the grapevine from last year, or it could have been last year. But if it flipped, I certainly saw it. And you guys saw me walking around. You busted me when I was using my phone, but it was my wife. So I didn't like to use the phone because I don't like modeling behavior that probably the kids shouldn't be doing. Nevertheless, certainly out and about, I saw it. The pods. I talked to at least 5 teachers. They were encouraged by that. That's a good thing. Really, you've got buy-in. You got buy-in from them on that. You're gonna see probably some good success. Now, saying that, you two are standing here, so I'll just get through on this. Yeah, the good thing is about the record of this meeting, I don't have to take notes and I can forget about this, because then I can always go back and look and see what I said 6 months from now. But certainly, because I'm getting old too, that's another thing. But certainly you hit it, and you hit on some of this, and all of you hit on this, because these are the key points. Is one, you all have school pride, because we're in an hour and a half into this presentation. And that is a good thing when you're talking about your schools and the key ingredient of discipline. Really, I mean, we've narrowed our presentations down before, but that's fine because this is the key ingredient. You all talked about communication. This is a great thing. Communication with students, with parents, the family life, how that impacts what goes on in school. Like you were saying, the problems that they bring in from the family into the home, you guys see it. We all saw, well, I saw it back in the days when I was there, but we see that. And as I used to say to some people, how's it going? I said, I could tell you stories that would make you cry. Because truly, you are the brunt of a lot of that behavior that those kids have to get through to get to school to be good students. And you're seeing that, and by you're saying the communication and family life and bringing that in, that's more than all your problems solved probably. But we had talked about last spring, certainly. 5% of your students are what creating all this discipline. And certainly, we talked about consistent, and all of you did, and all of you brought these words. That's why I took notes. I had a lot of it written down. And consistent behavior, high expectations. That's what's just going to solve a lot of this. We're getting through this COVID crap. Because that's what it was, COVID crap. It was everything that was going on for those 2 years dumped on us now too. Not only about expectations of academic achievement, we also have what I just was talking about, which is, I think, fantastic because you all, again, I'm sounding like Texas now, you all of you are doing very well in addressing that. And I like the fact that you did mention it and you're not running away from it. Is your reports from last year, you saw that. But you brought it up, Hector. Is it going to be better or worse this year? You expect it's going to be worse because you have more eyes and all of you have higher expectations. So if you have higher expectations and this behavior is not as good as you want, you're going to have more discipline referrals. That's granted, and that's probably a good thing because the message gets across those students. And it's going to probably you're going to have those ones that come in and so that's going to be good. It truly is. Maybe by December or January next semester, it's going to start going like this now. Hopefully, right? Cross our fingers for all of us on that. Yes, we do see your reports and we saw that. And yes, you guys should all take out Hector for lunch because he took the brunt last spring because none of you had to be in here when we were kind of high and going high in expectations of why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing it? Hector's going, oh, dang. I won't say use that.
It's okay. I get all this. We get all the students anyways at the high school.
Well, eventually, right? And I won't use the other D word because I used it once and I got in trouble for that. They said, don't cuss it anymore out there. Anyway, that's the point of all that. And I think it's all good. And I like to see what you hear. And I hear it. And again, I was just saving it for all of you because I didn't want to keep bringing up. I'm speaking too much already because it's 7:30. Thank you all principals for doing a wonderful job. Keep up the good work.
And I don't know if it's okay with the board. Principals, I know you guys had a long day, you got family. I don't care if you guys. I don't know if you guys.
The principal's report, so it's up to you.
Yes,
Yeah, so,
no, they get principal report, because Ms. Hogan likes to acknowledge those. So we'll continue.
It's absolutely freezing in here. I really couldn't.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I really would probably have to leave because.
All right, we'll get to item D. I don't know.
Yeah, so-
I'll take care of it soon.
We'll get through some of this real quick.
Yeah. So the policy, again, these are all vetted, and so if there's any questions, otherwise, recommendation is to approve as presented.
And they're vetted, and we heard a lot of this again at the law conference. So this is a motion to adopt and approve ASB Policy Service Advisory 717, 18, 21, 22, 23, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 731, 72 as presented. So move. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, superintendent's report.
Just real quick, want to congratulate all the sports teams and things that are going on right now. I have a lot of activities, county fair winners, and other things that happened in the last few weeks. And also just to notify the board that ADE did set the cut scores. And so for letter grades, and so those will be out November 1st. So there is no period where we embargo period now. As soon as they release them, they'll be released to the public. So that will come out November 1st. So we'll share as soon as we get that information with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to governing board member report, Ms. Fulvian.
Principal reports were great. I really liked all the representation from the county fair. Some of the kids' artwork was absolutely beautiful. And I really appreciated the Patriots Day celebrations at all the sites. They were well done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that. Happy to hear about Daniel Nevadas, was it, that he's gonna run in the New York Marathon. That's really awesome. Great, it's terrific. Just leave that, I guess, to Beach, since he was his wrestler. I won't say any more about that. I'm sure he wants to say something about it. And what else? Oh, I was happy to see that the stadium was coming along really well. Thank you for the picture that you put in there. Thank you to all the principals for your reports. You guys did a bang up job of discussing discipline. Hats off to you and your team.
I went to the Rich River Invitational on the 16th, the kids, there were 7 teams. I did make an entrance, I know that. Okay, for those of you that don't know, there's pictures, okay? My car went into a ditch, something, but anyway. I'm serious, okay? I was so happy to see the kids. Hi, kids, room, and there I am. Swear to God, the back tires are like 2 feet off the ground. Okay, but anyway, this is my grandson was here from Benson. There were 7 teams, and Rio Rico. It was the Rio Rico combined from CTMS and Calabasas, and the boys got first place. So that was a really good win for the game. I think the girls got second place. Am I right? Yeah, I think so. And it was, it was a lot of kids. It was really fun. It was, besides me and my fireworks. Okay. Anyway, it was a lot of fun to see the kids and to see all of the, how good they act together with everybody, and stuff. So I was really happy. Another thing is that there's going to be a big meet on Friday, the 30th, right? I just want to say good luck to all of them. It's going to be in Mesa. It's cross-country invitational, and both teams are going to be CTMS and CMS are going to be combined. Good luck to them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Beach.
What those 3 said, and enjoy your fall break.
Fall break.
Friday.
All right. We all, 3 of us attended, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, attended the county meeting in Patagonia. Congratulations to Robert Rojas from Nogales. We actually kind of helped to get that going, I think. That's good, because I think Robert is definitely he's not an activist, and I certainly think that he's going to do well for the county. So that will help, certainly. Principal reports, great. Pictures, excellent. 1,000 words. That was about 1,000,000 words with all the pictures. Thank you. Yes, 1,000 words, but certainly you'll probably start taking pictures, Mr. Jackson. add more pictures, then I can see that ASU way and it'll even be better.
Fewer words, more pictures.
Right. That's good though. I mean, that's all good. It's still good. I read through it. It's all good, like Ms. Fabian said. Congratulations also to, at the county meeting, two of our board members, Mr. Brad and Mr. Renee, better known as Pop and Lock. They did get okay. We did get their rewards for what is it again?
I don't know.
Oh, certificate of boardmanship. Wow, good job. That was part of our moving into total board sportsmanship. Yeah, right. Also, I just want one other thing is I looked at the Affordable Connectivity Program and I looked at Santa Cruz County and we're at 27% signed up as opposed to 45% across the state. So I think we're lacking and there's not a lot, but there's money there. It's $30 a month and or $100 for a device for the homes. Hopefully we can send something out to that to get it out to the parents, more information, because we shouldn't be at 27%. That's free money. It truly is. It's free money. And I guarantee based on our free and reduced lunch rates for our district, I think we would get more than 27%. That's 27% is like, not even, that's, I don't know. I can't even say what a Catalina Foothills maybe, other than that, but we should have a lot more. That's $30 a month paid towards their connectivity with internet and $100 for device. Anyway, I just brought that up because I just looked at that this morning. All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Information, discussion, action, annual financial report. And Ms. Brown.
I'd like to invite Ms. Brown up. So this is our annual financial report. Tonight we would review it and approve. So go ahead and show it to Ms. Brown.
There will be the principals elected. It's so late.
Unless we can, if you'd like, we can pull off the personal report to approve.
Yeah, let's do that.
You recommend that?
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, then we would need a motion to pull off the principal reports from
The consent agenda?
consent
Well,
agenda.
do we need them here to approve them? They can,
No, no.
no, we don't need, they don't need to be present to approve.
Okay.
Unless they trust us, unless you want to stay. Up to you.
Later.
Is that on the A4?
Hi, guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good night, good night.
Good luck.
Cell is stuck.
It's time to look back at fiscal year 21-22 now that we're past the encumbrance period, which ended August 31st. This report is a required annual report that we submit to the state. And as part of these highlights, we will go over the major funds. We have our maintenance and operation fund, and then we have our district additional assistance, which is our capital fund. We'll review classroom site fund expenditures, fund and override expenditures, federal and state grants. And then we'll look quickly over the COVID-19 special funding that we've received so far and food service. In the M&O, or main operation fund, this is the fund that is responsible to pay for our day-to-day operations. We captured $22.9 million in revenues. In our district additional assistance or capital fund, which is the fund that we use to fund location, technology, equipment, furniture, expenditures, we capture $1.3 million in revenue. Both combined represent a 9% increase from fiscal 21. That 9% increase came as a result of a combination of an increase in enrollment and additional funds to the formula from the state. Now we're gonna start in looking at the M&O, maintenance and operation expenditures. And we're gonna look at them by area first. So the first three lines, general instruction, special ed, CTED, athletics and band. Those are three areas that are dealing, their expenditures for activities that are dealing directly between the teachers and you can say that in our district, 64% of our expenditures were earmarked into that area. For general instruction, 9.9 million, special ed and CTED, 3 million, athletics and band, 449,144. You can see the rest of the areas in administration, 14% of the expenditures went to that area. That is combined administration, central administration and site-based administration at $2.9 million. In the area of maintenance and security service, 14% with $2.9 million as well. Transportation services, 8% with 1.6 million, and food service and bookstore under a 1% with 81,880. On food service, under the M&O, we try to keep it as low as possible. We actually want to make sure annually that our food service operation is self-sustaining, meaning that the revenues that come from the monthly claims of the meals are enough to pay for the operation. We do not want to inject any of our M&O or capital into the food service account if we don't have to. But there is a requirement where we have to put in some of our M&O dollars into the food service, and that's why that amount is so low. Another way of looking at the expenditures is by type of expenditure, not by area. The big part of the pie dedicated to salaries and benefits at 76%. I'm gonna pause right there because for the first time in our district, salaries and benefits are below the 80% mark. And it's not that we are hiring less staff members, is the way that we are hiring staff members in our district is changing a little bit. So we have 76% that is dedicated in salaries and benefits that are channeling directly through our payroll system. And we've had to hire some individuals through some hiring agencies. And that has been a significant increase in that area, bringing us down to that 80% mark for the first. So you can see that the dark blue, the 19% in purchase services, that's where you find the contracting out of or hiring through an agency for some of our staffing needs. 5% dedicated to supplies, and then less than 1% dedicated to other, meaning miscellaneous fees. Moving on to the capital fund. In our capital fund, total expenditures for the year, 756,331. You can see the areas where we spend the money. 48% dedicated to instruction. That's the area that funds our curriculum materials and instructional stuff. We saw an increase in the amount of money that is going towards software. And then we see transportation with 2%, facilities and security, 34% dedicated in that area, athletics and band, 15%, and administration, 1%. Okay. Now, instead of looking at the area, we look at the type of expenditures that we have. Curriculum and materials is our textbooks, like I mentioned, our software, furniture and equipment, vehicles, facilities, and technology. Okay. The classroom site fund, another significant shift this past year as well. Total expenditures in this area were $2.9 million. The average payment for the participants in our district was $12,500. That amount represents a 77% increase from the prior year. So that is a significant increase that it's important to highlight.
And just sort of the board member, that's 301. So
That's the 301. I was gonna say that's the 301 one.
Yes, that's the 301. That's the formal name for the fund. It is also known as Prop 301. Okay. Bond expenditures. Total expenditures for the year, $9.8 million. We finished the fiscal year with a total of 6.5 bond dollars remaining for bond projects. You've been seeing those reports come from ADM. The projects that are currently in progress, Rio Rico High School Stadium bleachers, lighting for athletic fields, and the major remaining projects that we have left is the pool and the junior OTC obstacle course. We're coming to the end of our bond program. On the other hand, or 9% override generated $1.9 million in additional funds in our general fund. The expenditures listed in the slide are aligned to what is in the board information pamphlet. We continue to fund all-day kinder,
band program at the elementary and middle school. Support staff for media centers, the fine arts also gets an allocation, CTE. Technology, online education, athletics, and the retention bonus for teachers is funded out of the override. We have a total of 27 positions that are linked to the 9%. This is the numbers for federal funds. In total, we captured $9.2 million in federal funds. Total expenditures, $9.2 million. I think it's important to highlight that the COVID-19 relief funds represent 6 million out of those $9 million. So it's been a significant investment in our district of those relief funds. And we are doing everything that we can to be strategic with the use of those funds and to capture any opportunity that we can. Mr. Kramer, you just mentioned the emergency connectivity program for our community, or our district was able to capture those funds at a district level. And we were able to capture over $1 million on just on the emergency connectivity program. So, but some of those, we are starting to have discussions because many of those funds are coming to an end. With state funds, revenues a little bit over $500,000, with expenditures $314,000. On top of the state grants, we also have two special state programs. One is at Rio Rico High School for the college credit exam incentives. We captured $9,450 in revenue in that area, and the expenditures are $12,000. We did not put the fund in the red. The expenditures are higher because we had some carryover from the prior year. The same thing with the results-based funding. In the results-based funding, you had, last year, we had two schools that were eligible for this funding. It was San Cayetano and Cuatimundi. We captured a total of $253,000 in revenue, and the expenditures once again at $300,000, exceeding the amount of revenue due to the carryover. In the food service operation, we were able to bounce back to prior COVID numbers and participation. This is an operation that was heavily impacted by the closure of our schools during the pandemic. We operated a 12-month program, captured $2.6 million in revenues, and the expenditures came in at 1.6, leaving us with a very healthy food service balance of $1.2 million. You can see that the number of meals that we served: breakfast over 164,000, breakfast, lunches 481,000, and snacks 22,000. And that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
I had a question about the aggregate expenditure limit that I read about. Whatever happened with that, Davey? Even the superintendent from Patagonia wrote a letter.
Yeah, so we're still continuing that, so the governor has yet to say that they would have a special session. So that is still the hope that at some point the aggregate expenditure limit would be approved, because if not, I think it's $2 million.
Doesn't impact the information.
Yeah, this is for the previous fiscal year. So it would be the current fiscal year. So this is again a recap of what we did the previous year.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, good question.
Stella, I don't know if you or Dave or one of you guys could answer on slide 4, the M&O expenditures on purchase services. Can somebody enlighten me on that?
So
Purchase services in that area, you'll find utilities, contract out service, audits, travel, professional development, services that we engage through a third party.
yeah, so for instance, foreign teachers, if they are under ESI, would also be under that category.
So that's where you find the hiring agencies.
So that's where Ms. Brown was talking about how it shifted from above 80% to below. So we're still not, it's not that we're not hiring as many people, it's because they were shifted into a different category. So they're purchase services. So retirees, in that initial year if they come back. Under ESI, teachers that we hire from Mexico or things that are, or if they're hired by a hiring agency,
Okay,
all those are in that 19% as well.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions about last year's budget?
Oh, good.
Thank you, sir.
And we need to approve,
Yes.
because yes, we need to send this to the state. That our rewards going.
Yes.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve the annual financial report AFR FY, that's fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented?
So moved.
Second, any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. All right, subject B, thank you, CFO Brown. Propose and prioritize topics and possible dates and times for future board meeting. Rugo, you're on there, but you don't have anything on your list.
Just a board meeting October 11th. So
Nothing else, and we still have a list of 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
so any additional
Any
items?
additional ones, Ms. Fulvian?
I would just like an FYI on the percentage of students that are eligible to ride on the bus and the actual number that utilize the bus. Just FYI, not.
Ally, we have our average daily ridership. Is that?
Be fine.
Senor Ramirez? Dan Ramirez? Vasquez, nah?
Todo bien.
Okay. Beach? Todo bien. All right, so I have nothing either because we want to pack on and taking down those other 6.
Yep.
All right. We move on to consent agenda. Any matter of consent agenda will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed as a regular agenda item on the request of any board member, and the principal's reports cannot be touched. No? No. All right, good. So do I hear a motion then to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, please acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. Governing board meeting evaluation, Ms. Vasquez.
What?
What did you think of this board meeting? You're giving your opinion in 10 words or less.
10 words or less. Can't happen. No, I'm just- I thought it was very, very educational for me. I had never seen the reports from the principals, the discipline part and all that. I've never seen that, so I thought it was like really cool. One of the things that I kind of wanted was like, I think it was Calabasas didn't give numbers. I was gonna ask, but then I thought, I'm not gonna say anything. But the other schools kind of broke it down that they had, like so many students or so many referrals on a certain thing, on a fight, on this, whatever. And Calabasas didn't have that, and I just kind of like.
You can always ask.
Okay. But again, I'm learning, okay?
That's right, I'll rephrase it, 100 words or less, thank you.
Did I tell you about my card?
Hey.
All right,
Mhm.
with that said, then I will adjourn this meeting because I'm gonna follow new protocol this time, so we can get out of here quickly. Motion or meeting adjourned at whatever it is, I'll say 7:55.
No,
And the paper.
no motion?